Hello everyone. Got a few dirty jokes for you today. So, a young man, with great pride, moved into his very own apartment. He headed to the lobby to put his name on his mailbox. As he was doing so, a stunning young lady in a robe who lived in the apartment next to the mailboxes approached him. They started chatting, and as they did, her robe slipped open, revealing she was wearing nothing underneath. The boy, feeling nervous, tried to maintain eye contact while sweating profusely. After a few minutes, the lady put her hand on his arm and whispered, "Let's go to my apartment. I hear someone coming." He followed her, and as they entered her apartment, she closed the door and leaned against it, allowing her robe to fall off completely. "Now, completely nude," she purred. "What would you say is my best feature?" The boy, flustered and embarrassed, finally managed to say, "It's got to be your ears." The lady, taken aback and a little hurt, questioned, "My ears?" "Look at these breasts. They are a full 38 inches and 100% natural. I work out every day, and my ass is firm and solid. I have a 28-inch waist. Look at my skin, not a blemish anywhere. How can you think that the best part of my body is my ears?" Clearing his throat, the boy replied, "Outside, when you said you heard someone coming. That was me." So while golfing, I accidentally overturned my golf cart. A very attractive golfer, who lived in a villa on the golf course, heard the noise and called out, "Are you okay?" "I'm okay, thanks," I replied as I pulled myself out of the twisted cart. She said, "Come up to my villa, rest a while, and I'll help you get the cart up later." I noticed her silky bathrobe was partially open, revealing what appeared to be a very nice figure. "That's mighty nice of you," I answered, "but I don't think my wife would like it." "Oh, come on now," she insisted. She was so pretty and very, very persuasive. I was weak. "Well, okay," I finally agreed, "but I'm sure my wife won't like it." After a couple of scotch and waters, I thanked her and said, "I feel a lot better now, but I know my wife is going to be really upset, so I'd better go now." "Don't be silly," she said with a smile, letting her robe fall slightly more open. "Stay for a while. She won't know anything. By the way, where is she?" I replied, "Still under the cart, I guess." So a large woman wearing a sleeveless sundress walked into a pub in England. She raised her right arm, revealing a huge, hairy armpit as she pointed to all the people sitting at the bar and asked, "What man here will buy a lady a drink?" The bar went silent as the patrons tried to ignore her. But down at the end of the bar, a bleary-eyed drunk slammed his hand down on the counter and bellowed, "Give the ballerina a drink." The bartender poured the drink, and the woman chugged it down. She turned to the patrons and again pointed around at all of them, revealing the same hairy armpit, and asked, "What man here will buy a lady a drink?" Once again, the same little drunk slapped his money down on the bar and said, "Give the ballerina another drink." The bartender approached the little drunk and said, "I say, old chap, it's none of my business if you want to buy the lady a drink, but why do you keep calling her the ballerina?" The drunk replied, "Any woman who can lift her leg that high has got to be a ballerina." So a Texas roughneck goes to Alberta to work in the oil fields. Everything's great at first, but in the late summer, he loses his job. He can't even afford to go back home, so he ends up homeless on the street in Edmonton. One day, as he's begging for spare change, a woman walks by. The Texan asks her for $5, so he can go to Tim Hortons and buy coffee and a biscuit. Never let it be said that the women of Edmonton let a stranger starve on the street. She says, and hands him $5. A few weeks later, he's standing under an overpass in the pouring rain and sees another woman. "Would you be kind enough to give me $20 so I can go to Canadian Tire and buy an umbrella?" She hands him $20, saying never let it be said that an Edmonton woman left you under a bridge in the pouring rain. So the Texan buys an umbrella. A month later, it starts to snow. The Texan is shivering in a t-shirt when he sees another woman walking by and asks, "I hate to bother you, but if it's not too much trouble, could you give me $100 so I could go to the bay and buy myself a winter jacket?" "Of course." She replies, "Never let it be said that the women of Edmonton left you out to freeze in the street without a coat." She hands him a $100 bill and goes on her way. 2 weeks later, another woman runs into the homeless Texan on the street, but at least he's warm in his new winter jacket. He greets her and says, "The women of Edmonton have been so good to me. No matter what I need, they've helped me out. I hate to ask, but can I have a hand job?" "That's enough," the woman screamed. "The women of Edmonton have standards, and we don't give out hand jobs to homeless men on the street." The Texan starts apologizing, but she interrupts. "So let's go behind the bus stop." So it was raining hard, and a big puddle had formed in front of an Irish pub. An old man stood beside the puddle holding a stick with a string on the end and jiggled it up and down in the water. A curious gentleman asked what he was doing. "Fishing," replied the old man. "Poor old fool," thought the gentleman, so he invited the old man to have a drink in the pub. Feeling he should start some conversation while they were sipping their whiskey, the gentleman asked, "And how many have you caught?" "You're the 8th, replied the old man. So a jumbo jet is making its final approach to Coolangatta Airport. The pilot comes on the intercom. "This is your captain. We're on our final descent. I want to thank you for flying with us today and hope you enjoy your stay on the Gold Coast." But then he forgets to switch off the intercom, and the whole plane can hear his conversation from the cockpit. The co-pilot asks the pilot, "So, Skip, what you got planned while we're on the Gold Coast?" The captain replies, "Well, first, I'm gonna check into the hotel, take a big crap. Then I'm gonna take that new stewardess with the huge melons out for dinner. I'm gonna wine and dine her, take her back to my room, and root her senseless all night long." Everyone on the plane is shocked and amused, and they start looking up and down the aisle, trying to figure out who this new stewardess is that the pilot is talking about. Meanwhile, the new stewardess, embarrassed and mortified, rushes to the cockpit to turn the intercom off. As she runs down the aisle, she trips over an old lady's bag and falls. The old lady leans over and says, "No need to hurry, dear. You got to land the plane and take a crap first." So a lonely widow in her 70s decided it was time to remarry. She placed an ad in the local paper that read, "Husband wanted. Must be in my age group, must not run around on me, must not beat me, and must still be good in bed. All applicants please apply in person." On the second day, she heard the doorbell. Much to her surprise and dismay, she opened the door to find a gray-haired gentleman sitting in a wheelchair with no arms or legs. The old woman said, "You're not really asking me to consider you, are you? Just look at you. You have no legs." The old man smiled and replied, "Therefore, I cannot run around on you." She retorted, "You don't have any arms either." The old man smiled again and said, "Therefore, I can never beat you." Raising an eyebrow, she asked, "Are you still good in bed?" The old man leaned back, beamed a big smile, and said, "I rang the doorbell, didn't I?" So Jim was off work in quarantine because he had contracted the coronavirus. Finally recovered and back at work, he ran into a friend of his who asked, "Jim, how are you feeling?" "I'm better, thanks." "You know, it was a wonderful experience," Jim replied. "Wonderful? How can the flu be wonderful?" "Well, I learned that my wife really loves me. You know, whenever the postman came by or a delivery man headed towards the door, my wife ran out to meet them. I could hear her excitedly screaming, 'My husband is home. My husband is home.'" So, an 80-year-old man goes for a physical. All of his tests come back with normal results. The doctor says, "George, everything looks great. How are you doing mentally and emotionally? Are you at peace with God?" George replies, "God and I are tight. He knows I have poor eyesight. He's fixed it, so when I get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, poof, the light goes on. When I'm done, poof, the light goes off." "Wow, that's incredible," the doctor says. A little later in the day, the doctor calls George's wife. "Ethel," he says, "George is doing fine. But I had to call you because I'm in awe of his relationship with God. Is it true that he gets up during the night and poof, the light goes on in the bathroom, and when he's done, poof, the light goes off?" "Oh, sweet Jesus," exclaims Ethel. "He's pissing in the refrigerator again." So I now know why I'm always so tired. For a couple years, I've been blaming it on iron-poor blood, lack of vitamins, dieting, and a dozen other maladies. But now I found out the real reason. I'm tired because I'm overworked. The population of this country is 237 million. 104 million are retired. That leaves 133 million to do the work. There are 85 million in school, which leave 48 million to do the work. Of this, there are 29 million employed by the federal government. This leaves 19 million to do the work. 4 million are in the armed forces, which leaves 15 million to do the work. Take from the total the 14,800,000 people who work for state and city government, and that leaves 200,000 to do the work. There are 188,000 in hospitals, so that leaves 12,000 to do the work. Now, there are 11,998 people in prisons. That leaves just 2 people to do the work, you and me. And you're sitting there listening to my stupid jokes.